Welcome back to another episode. This episode blew my mind. If you are someone who is considering separating or going through a divorce, first of all, Steph and I, our hearts are with you. It is one of the toughest things that we have had to personally coach other clients through. And, all I can say is that for those of you who are considering it, you are the bravest people because there's so much emotion tied into this process. And we decided to have this amazing expert come and talk to you about how you can protect your wealth and your emotional health if you are someone who is thinking about going through the legal and the emotional challenge that is divorce. Her name is Erin. She is the founder of Hello Divorce, and she started her career in the legal field, and she just got fed up. She got fed up with the rigmarole, with the red tape, with the missteps that people will take because they just didn't know and no one taught them. And so she has created an entire company around making this process as simple as it can possibly be. And what I really love is that she is so driven by this mission, in particular to help women protect themselves and their wealth and their futures, that even if you're not going through a divorce, even if you love your spouse right now, I think this episode is worth a listen to really understand what a friend, a sister, a mom, a coworker might be going through and how we can help better support our fellow women who are going through these challenges. I can't wait for you to listen to this episode. Let's listen in.
Welcome to Crush Your Money Goals, where we dive deep into all things money as your 2 millionaire mentors. I'm Bernadette Joy.
And I'm Stephanie Gonzalez. This season, we're shifting gears and focusing on something that affects us all, quitting with confidence.
From financial habits to career transitions, we're here to guide you through the journey of taking charge of your finances and pursuing your dreams fearlessly.
Tune in every week as we share tips, stories, and expert insights to help you crush your money goals and embrace change with open arms. Welcome to Season 7, Quit with Conviction.
Welcome, everybody. We are so glad to be back for another episode, and I am super pumped. I've been waiting for this conversation with Erin because she has a really neat background and a clear example of someone who pivoted from one career into another career to follow a passion of hers. And so welcome, Erin. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. You know, I'm a big fan. So when I reached out, I was thrilled that you agreed to have me.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it was hard to say no after you sent us more details about what you do. And I wanted to start off with a little bit of context. You mentioned that 2024 is called the Great Divorce Era. Can you share more about what that is?
Yes. So in the past, we have seen so much about divorce, right? Every time we open the internet, we see all these articles about celebrity divorces. I don't know about you, but I personally hate seeing those articles. I'm over them. But now we're actually seeing a lot more articles about divorce for the rest of us. And there's some interesting stats coming out that are leading us to believe that divorce is becoming, the rates are just now increasing pretty dramatically. So as an example, the number of gray divorce, so seniors that are getting divorced, has doubled in the past year. That is wild. We're also seeing that the reason people are getting divorced, especially in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, is not so much big events like infidelity, leaving for some big, massive reason, but really just general unhappiness. Communication issues that have led to the breakdown of the marriage, where people, particularly women, since they file 75 to 80% of the time, are just not happy with the life they are created, and they are seeking more.
Well, I love that you mentioned this, and that's so interesting that you said that gray divorces, they're on the rise. And interestingly, at least for me, my coaching group, half of the group is over their 50s. And what has been really, really interesting is in delving with people's money, we often end up talking about things like what's going on in their relationship or their marriage. And I'm going to say that what you are saying in stats, I have seen kind of anecdotally. And one of the things that really struck me that you shared with us, I'm going to read the stat. You said, on average, women experience a 41% reduction in their financial status post-divorce, a significantly higher rate than men. And I thought that was the perfect reason for you to be on this podcast, because I have personally had to coach a lot of women post-divorce because of that reduction. And as a CEO of Hello Divorce, I'd love for you to share more about kind of those systematic and cultural ways that inequality is perpetuated. And so can you share kind of what the impetus was for creating Hello Divorce and how that played into this financial picture that you talked about?
Yes, absolutely. So I started my career as a lawyer, and I actually really enjoyed building the business. I liked practicing law, but I really enjoyed building the business. But there were three things in addition to the financial inequality, which I really wasn't so much aware of, that made me interested in leaving law firm life and building something new. The first was I learned that 80% of people were not represented by an attorney when they were going through a divorce.
Wow.
Wait, you said 80?
80%.
That's shocking to me.
Isn't it? It's shocking. And the vast majority of those people, surprise, surprise, are women. So there's these massive implications in our life, right? When we're going through divorce, financial, emotional, our children, legal, and people were navigating these life transitions largely alone. And that's because the average cost of divorce, just in legal fees, is $15,000 to $20,000 per person. So that was issue number one. The second issue was that even for people who could afford a lawyer, the industry NPS score was so low. Most people did not have a positive experience with their divorce attorney. And not all divorce attorneys are bad. I am a divorce attorney. We employ many divorce attorneys. There are plenty of divorce attorneys that have that are well-intentioned, but the system is so broken. It's very, very difficult to help people have a relatively good experience, a successful experience transitioning out of marriage into their next chapter. And the third big issue I saw was this relentless focus on the law. We're so focused on what our legal rights are, we forget to focus on really what likely matters most, which is setting ourselves up for our financial lives, right? And there was no one place you could go to where you could manage all of that, where you could manage your co-parenting lives, where you could manage your financial goals, where you could get all of your legal logistics done. And it could be in one place where you could access your experts, where you could file your documents. Instead, you had to go to 5 million different places, spend a lot of money, and cross your fingers and hope that it all worked out. So that was the initial impetus behind Hello Divorce. I wanted to create one place where you could do all of that, do it well, do it affordably, and get the support you need. And then I started reading about the statistics of how miserable women were doing post-divorce. So to answer your question, the systematic and cultural inequalities come down to a few things. So when you look at culture, you look at, first of all, women live longer. You look at the fact that we tend to have more caregiving responsibilities. That's changing, but not, it still is what it is, right? We have less access to capital. We still have the income gap, right? So we're leaving divorce, we're leaving marriage with less earning potential and oftentimes less income. We do things in divorce itself that aren't really talked about, but make a huge difference. So let me give you an example. Women are almost always the first to compromise in negotiation. So women file for divorce 75 to 80% of the time, and they feel badly about it, right? We're not bad people. And we feel badly. We don't want to file for divorce. Oftentimes we've considered it for 2 to 5 years. We've tried to save our marriage. We've done everything we possibly can. And now we've got to file for divorce. We feel badly. So as a showing of good faith, we tell our wives or our husbands, look, and in exchange for this divorce, I'm willing to give up X. And we're already starting in a position of giving something up and lower power. Men rarely walk into a negotiation giving something up. And already that sets us up for a settlement or an agreement that's where we're going to do, we're going to come out less. But I think that the biggest issue that I see, the biggest problem is that the financial literacy piece. The most powerful women I know did not control the finances in their relationship. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes it had something to do with abuse, but very often, in fact, most often, it was simply the division of labor in their relationship. Their spouse was more comfortable with money, so their spouse handled money and they handled kids or house or whatever it might be. And they get to the divorce and they either rely on their spouse to handle the division of assets, or perhaps even worse, they rely on their lawyer. And I'm sorry, but you don't go to a dentist to ask about back pain. Yeah. And you shouldn't go to a lawyer to ask them about how to divide finances. That really needs to go to a financial pro. Wow. So I'll stop there because I could go into a million reasons why the system is broken and how it really screws over women. But I just kind of wanted to first jump into some of the cultural issues that make it really challenging for women in divorce. But fortunately, we can overcome them, and I see it every day.
Ta-da! If you like this content, please go ahead and check out my latest project. It's the Crush Your Money Goals book, and it will be available for purchase December, but now you can get it for pre-order and you can learn the 25 money habits that will help you save, invest, and plan for financial freedom the same way that I did and was able to retire by 40. Check it out at crushyourmoneygoals.com.
No, first of all, you don't have to apologize for the, I mean, it was a long question with what deserved to be a long answer, right? Of like the systematic challenges of being a woman in a patriarchy is basically what I asked you, right? You know, I guess as a financial coach, I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Is one of the biggest, I have a couple of cases of this right now, of clients who say, I can't afford an attorney.
Yeah.
So what would be your response to that, and or what should they be thinking about or can do if they genuinely either one, there's some people who feel like they can't, which is one thing. Because I've seen their finances and I'm like, you can, but they don't really want to spend the money. Or two, they genuinely don't have the funds. What would be your response in those cases?
So in the past, we thought to ourselves, we have two options. Either we do it ourselves, which I really don't recommend for the reasons I stated. There's too much at stake. Or we, in many ways, lawyer up and fight. But it's no longer the case. Now we can really think about our approach, how we are going to do divorce, because unless there's an emergency, and here's how I characterize emergency, either abuse, imminent abuse for your safety, like you have, or you lack an access to your finances or an access to your kids. Unless there's one of those three things, nothing is going to happen overnight. You are going to have time to make decisions. You are going to have time to think through and get through your divorce systematically. Now, you might want it to be over overnight. You might want to get this done, but your marriage was 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. You are not going to unwind it overnight, and it's not smart to unwind it overnight. We need to take our time. So what you need to think through is the different aspects of divorce and who is best to help you in each of those aspects. So divorce is primarily two things. One is the procedure, and one is the substance. The procedure is all the forms you have to do, no matter what state you're in. You have to file at least 20, sometimes 30 forms. They have to be filed at the correct intervals. They have to be prepared. They have to be served and exchanged. These are pretty routine, and they don't necessarily need to be done by a lawyer. But if a lawyer does them, they're probably going to cost you at least $10,000. So you might, for that procedural part, you might want to think about using my platform. You don't have to. There are other options. You could use a paralegal. You could download it from your state's website. But you might want to think about using my platform to guide you through all of those forms and file them with your local court, or at the very least, gather all of the information you need, prepare your first draft, and give them to your lawyer to review, which will cut down thousands of dollars. So that's number one, the procedure. Then there's the substance. That's getting to an agreement with your spouse. That's the hard part, right? What am I entitled to? And is my spouse going to cooperate? And then getting that agreement on paper and turning it in to the court. So for that, what I want people to think about, number one, is what is stressing them out the most? What is keeping them up at night? If there is something that they are coming to you about that over and over and over is going on in their head, maybe it's spousal support, maybe it's what am I going to do with the home, then that's what they should address first. And if it has anything to do with finance, they should be working with a financial advisor, or even better, scheduling an appointment with either a local or one of our certified divorce financial analysts. That is what they are there for. And the good news is they are a lot less expensive than a lawyer. They will help you understand what the likely outcome is, what your best case scenario is, what your worst case scenario is, and what you could offer your spouse that's in line with your financial goals that might be an attractive offer to them as well. Once you figure out what it is that you want and how that plays out, then at that point, you can decide whether or not it makes sense to step into mediation to see if you and your spouse can get to an agreement. A lot of women tell me, I don't want to be in the same room as my spouse. I don't think I can advocate for myself. He or she is a lot more financially savvy or manipulating or whatever it might be. Well, the good news is this. Our mediators rarely meet with both spouses together.
I don't think most people know that.
I don't think most people know that either. Mediators, a really good mediator can work with really tricky personalities, is very skilled in personalities, and is brokering a deal. That is what they are doing. And their goal is to keep you out of court for two big reasons. Well, three. Number one is court will take you forever and cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. And number two is if you can't come to an agreement, the judge will just split the baby. The judge will just come there and say, you can't agree on the house? All right, we'll sell it and split the proceeds. The judge isn't going to be creative. The judge isn't going to take into account tax considerations. The judge isn't going to take into account systematic and cultural inequalities. None of that stuff. So an option like mediation is going to be really, really helpful. And you can have a lawyer on the side. Your spouse doesn't even need to know that. That's kind of coaching you through the process. And here's the best news of all. On average, the women who take this route, who use the software to slowly work through all their forms, who use mediation to broker a deal, and who have a lawyer and a financial advisor on the side to help them here and there along the way, spend less than $5,000 for their entire divorce.
Hold on. Say that one more time because the people need to hear it.
Okay. So on average, the women who use our platform to use the technology to get all of their forms completed and served, to use mediation to work out an agreement, and to spend some time with a lawyer and a certified divorce financial analyst to get some help along the way, spend less than $5,000 for their entire divorce.
I mean, I think women that are listening to this podcast that are contemplating or know a friend who is going through the situation, you hear the word divorce and you think of like all the TV shows on this like long, lengthy process, and you had to come together in the same room, and the judge it sounds like it's just very different, but services and people coming together to serve the situation and what really needs to happen have allowed this to become very different than what I think people believe in their minds.
It's a farce. Yeah. 95% of divorces never go to trial. 95%. But we've been conditioned to believe that you have to have a lawyer and that most people go to trial and battle it out. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't hear of stories where people are often fighting about temporary orders or smaller issues along the way.
Sure.
And I would say that if you find yourself motivated by anger or revenge or any of those emotions because you've been wronged, that is entirely reasonable. But before you start the divorce process, you must see a therapist or a divorce coach because the system is not set up to be punitive. The system will not reward you for your spouse's bad behavior, and instead it will take you down. And the same thing goes for the divorce process that I've outlined requires you to take some initiative, right? And to, spend some time on our technology, to spend some time with experts. And if you're not ready for that, I would also hold off and meet with a divorce coach or a mentor or a therapist until you feel like you're ready to, take that initiative.
Yeah. When you look at Hello Divorce, I'm trying to take this to now women heard this $5,000 number and that's all they can think of.
Stephanie, I'm still processing. Like
I know.
I'm literal shock right now.
Yeah. But I think the other thing is just understanding what the process and the layers are, because sometimes just the idea of divorce and all the other things that go along with it, it's daunting along with the emotions and everything else that you're dealing with in this union that may or may not be any longer. So what do you tell people in terms of how they navigate resources that Hello Divorce offers, or, YouTube type, playlists to give information to women that are interested or wanting to point their friends towards? Because I think Bernadette and I are very fortunate to be with, partners that really support us, and that we're fortunate But we also know many women that are contemplating this idea of what
Name
new
a
life
half a
could
dozen
look
right
like for them
now.
on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your number one recommendation?
I would say to go to hellodivorce.com and schedule a free 15-minute call. Even if it's the first time they're saying divorce out loud, if they want to understand what services and support we offer, or at least to understand the general process in the state that they're in. If they're not ready for that yet, then two options. One is to head on over to Instagram and go to at Hello Divorce. We have a lot of great resources there. And if you click on our stories each day, we include a lot of great resources. And also, on hellodivorce.com itself, we have a ton of great downloads, including our Hello Divorce, which I can give you for the show notes, 101 planner. So this is completely free, and it's a planner with a pre-divorce checklist, a great understanding of all the different approaches that you can take for divorce, a co-parenting worksheet, all the stuff that you need to think about and do to prepare for divorce, but also after. And none of this stuff you have to do right away. But after divorce, there are things that you need to do to prepare yourself financially for your next chapter as well. And so we like to include all that in one planner that a lot of women just love to like print out and sort of check off along the way. Yeah. So I think maybe that would be a great handout for people.
Attention, ladies. Want to be a debt-free millionaire? I'm your co-host, Stephanie, and I'm here to help you activate your hard-earned income and achieve financial independence. For being a Crush Your Money Goals listener, I invite you to book your free personal one-on-one consultation with me today and get started on your wealth building journey. Visit www.womenswealtheffect.com/free. That's www.womenswealtheffect.com/free and take control of your financial future. Don't wait. There are things you can do before even entering marriage, of course, to protect yourself more. Prenup is one of them. But even if you are in your union and let's say you are going to build a business and you want to protect your family unit from whatever could happen with the business, et cetera, right? There's intersection points where the conversation around a prenuptial agreement or even a postnup can happen. Does Hello Divorce help with that?
Yes. So I have some tips, but we do help. So one thing that we do are postnuptial agreements. A lot of people haven't heard of those. Yeah. I did it in my own marriage, and postnuptial agreements are really interesting in that they're a lot easier to do than prenups. Prenups can be really complicated. You usually need lawyers. They are difficult to enforce. They can be very tricky because the legal requirements around them assume that one spouse has a lot less leverage than the other spouse. It assumes that one spouse is coming into the marriage with more money than the other. And
hence the reason for a prenuptial agreement to begin with. That was the reason it was created.
Yeah. Exactly. And so the laws are a lot trickier around how and when they can be enforced. Postnup assumes that we're on the same negotiating level, same power. So the laws are a lot more relaxed. And oftentimes couples will come to our platform to do postnups for a few reasons. One might be that they're having a lot of trouble in their relationship. Maybe there's an issue around substance abuse, anger management. Maybe they are trying to save their marriage, but they don't know whether or not it's going to work or not. So a postnup allows them to work towards reconciliation without having to keep their finances intertwined. Or at least all of their finances intertwined. So another reasons people will use a postnup is if one spouse is more risk adverse than the other, or if they have children and they wanted to ensure that at least one spouse keeps their credit intact and their finances intact so that the household is financially secure. So as an example, my husband and I are both entrepreneurs, but when each of us started businesses, we did a postnuptial agreement to protect the other from any debts that business might accrue. Because as you know, it's a very risky business. You don't know whether it's going to succeed or not. And what we had accrued as a family, we wanted to ensure we're protected. You could do it with one asset, like a house. You can take a separate property house and make it a joint asset, or you could transfer it to one spouse. Or you can do it with your entire estate. But postnups are a really great tool to use.
Interesting. Yeah, because I see this a lot more in Instagram, right? Just in podcasts and that type of thing, dialogue around the importance of, especially for entrepreneurs, and as more and more women become entrepreneurs, right? It's something to consider. It's something to really think about, and it's great that you guys offer that as a service.
I think what's absolutely most important is that it's something that we can all share with our communities, which is that we have to take an interest in our finances. We have to understand what is happening in our finances. And we don't need to do it in a way that's accusatory with our spouses or assume that something's wrong. And we also don't have to shame ourselves for what we don't know. But we have to be aware, because it not only sets us up for a better future, and if, God forbid, we do get divorced, sets us up for a better settlement, but it also makes us better partners.
Absolutely.
It really does. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you think about, even the modeling for your children, right? It's a huge element in what they see. And, even in a postnuptial discussion, right? To see, parents partner in that way and be open and honest with each other about your situation. It's huge. This has been an awesome conversation, literally eye-opening and jaw-dropping. As you could see, Bernadette and I were a bit speechless after we talked a bit about what this process really could cost someone. Beyond the resources that you've already shared, which is hellodivorce.com and going to Instagram, where else might our audience be able to find you? And is there anything coming up in the next year or so for your business that you're really excited to integrate?
Yes. Well, I'd love to share our latest and greatest resource, which is hellodivorce.com/home. And this is an extraordinary resource. It is 100% free for anybody who is in relationship, divorce, or in relationship that owns a home and is separating. And you are trying to figure out, how am I going to split that equity? Are we going to keep the home? Are we going to sell the home? Refi? What are we going to do? And it includes a calculator, a real estate strategist, and introduction to some of the most incredible vetted partners that we know. And so if you find yourself in that situation, we've already had, in just a couple short months, 7,000 people use that calculator and have it help them. And we're really excited about this new tool. So please check it out and let us know what you think.
That's fantastic. I mean, if that doesn't tell the audience about or demonstrate how in demand this body of work truly is, right? I don't know what else does. Thank you so much for being with us. This is a great conversation. Like Bernadette said, she will definitely be in touch with you, because I know that her program can certainly utilize resources like yourself, speakers like yourself. I will be doing the same thing. And we hope to have you on the podcast again in the future.
Thank you. Well, we will be starting one soon too. And so I'm going to hit you two up, because you have to be guests on ours as well.
Love. That's amazing. We look forward to it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Crush Your Money Goals podcast.
Please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this podcast. Your feedback helps us spread the wealth of knowledge to more women like you.
And if you'd like to work with me to help you answer the important question, if I'm on track to retire, be sure to snag my free financial independence planner at womenswealtheffect.com/planner.
And if you'd like to work with me to kickstart your financial freedom plan, you can grab the Cha-Ching checklist, my free guide at crushyourmoneygoals.com/free guide.
See you next time.